he has a very strong attachment to our theme too, so that's really good. So how many of you know what Tafoni is?
Now we do.
Wonderful. Yes, I didn't 2 years ago, to tell you the truth. I had seen rocks with holes before, but didn't really give it much attention. And then I ended up getting a partial cabin at Maine, as most of you know, and just started going crazy photographing it. And every time I went there, I had to photograph it more and more, and I was just totally blown away with all the textures and the shapes. And then I found out right in the beginning, a friend of mine is a librarian, and she told me the name, so then I started researching it. And the more I researched it, the more I loved it, and the more I wanted to go back. And then one day, I met the other artist and we pulled it together. So does anybody have any questions about Tafoni right now? Or any questions for us before we go off on our own tangents? No? No questions?
Go off on your own
Tafoni, yeah. I first encountered Tafoni when I was in Oregon, actually.
In Oregon?
Yeah.
Right.
So I guess it's all along the coast?
Yeah, it is. There's many places. Anybody seen it in another country?
I wish.
It's also in the desert.
Oh, I guess Hawaii.
Yes.
I've been to Hawaii. I've
Okay.
seen it. Does the lava count?
Yes, lava counts. Actually, when I was in the Caymans this year, I purposely went where the lava rocks were that I knew of, and I did end up photographing it there. Yes, so lava rocks does count. I do have a sheet with some information if you want. And I actually, if you go on a website like www.tafoni.com, there's somebody who has done a lot of work on it, and he has a map where it's found all over the world, but he doesn't even have the West Coast on it.
Oh.
So I'm going to have to write it. Send in pictures and say,
Send the images of the show.
Yes, I will. So anyway, yeah, it just intrigued me 100%. So then one day, I was in Port Moody Art Gallery and I saw Denise's work, her pottery. And there's a spider, but he's not part of the group. Anyway, I saw Denise's pottery and I thought, oh my God, that just reminds me so much. So I got her business card, I phoned her up and I asked her if she was influenced in Tafoni, and she said, what's that? So then I explained it to her. She says, yeah, I came from the East Coast, went to Main Island, and was hit by it too. And so yes, so then I belong to Art Talks, which many of you guys do, and I mentioned about the show, and Sande said, I am influenced by it also. And then Eleanor said, I am influenced by it also. So before you knew it, we had a nice group of 4 of us.
That's good.
And so we actually went on a little holiday together. I invited them to the cabin, and we got to see whatever we could because the tide was mainly in, not out that time. So it definitely, I find it very interesting when I'll see something and I think, oh, I'll go back, and then I couldn't find it. So besides learning about Tafoni, I had to learn about the tide. So I started researching tides and learning about tides and learning how to read a tide chart and learning about king tides over regular tides. And then I started painting tides. So it's just kind of snowballing. And then I started going to the other islands, and there's still islands I want to go to. I want to go to your island, Gabriola, and I want to go to Hornby Island. And so we're going to Europe this year, and so I'm going to get to see it in other countries, in Istanbul and Sicily and a few other islands we're going to. So I'm hoping I come back with a really amazing collection. I can do a world section on this. So yeah, for me, the photography of it kept evolving and changing, and what I liked about it was the simplicity of it. The textures, the shapes, and every time you went there and looked at it, you'd see a rock and you'd recognize the rock, and then it would be different. Maybe at 2 o'clock from 5 o'clock in the afternoon, depending on the time of the day, the light, how it hit it. And sometimes it looked kind of it was just totally different from every hour. So I'd have to photograph it at 2 and then maybe go back at 5, and then, you know, the next day I'd try and find the same rock and it wouldn't be there, it would be underneath the water. But that's what I liked about it, was the simplicity of it. It's just so beautiful with just the textures, you know. And that's one of the reasons why I put it in the honeycomb. Like, it is known as honeycomb, and then I had to find a place that would actually print it in honeycomb, which took a long time to find somebody who could do 1.5 inches in honeycomb. But I was quite happy with it. But I've learned how to even print it differently in honeycomb since I first started, because the way you print it in honeycomb, it takes a lot of the image away from it. So then I had to go back and reshoot things, or some images that I thought would work, when I had them printed, I didn't like them because it would crop off too much. So the whole changing of the imagery and the honeycomb to the square made a big difference. And then I started doing the collage, which was, I was playing with it because, again, I got so interested in how the water hides it and shapes it, and how the tide, you know, just excludes it and then brings it out and recedes within and out of the tide, that I needed to play with that. I needed to get that out. So then I started doing collaging and surface painting on top of the imagery to get that. And then a few of us were just talking about the glass art, and I'd never collected glass before, sea glass. I didn't even know what sea glass was. You know, I never heard of sea glass until we went, because my experience on the West Coast is very raw. You know, I'm really a city slicker, you know. I'm not a West Coast girl at all. So I didn't know about sea glass. I didn't know that people had fascinations like you to collect it. So I thought, oh, I have to add sea glass to this. And then we started collecting it, and with my granddaughter and other people who would come to the cabin collecting it. And then it just became a thing. You go to the beach and you start looking for logs that will hang canvas. So last time I was there a few weeks ago, I found a really nice piece of log, you know. And so I'll probably have more and more pieces on canvas because of the logs and the sea glasses and the little pieces that you find. So it's, for me, that was one of the fond memories of COVID, that I had an opportunity to get away, and I just really, I don't know, that I maybe it's because I'm older that I like holes with rocks. So, any questions for me? Okay, so Ellen is not here. A lot of you know Ellen's work. And we can actually call her in a little bit after Sande talks if you have any questions for Ellen. And same with Dee Jeffrey's work, her pottery. She actually has work in Port Moody a lot, in the store there, and we could call her. Neither of them could be here today, which is unfortunate, because they have really good stories too. And like I say, the four of us did not know each other. Sande didn't know Dee, I didn't know Dee. We all kind of really came together because of the theme. So,
Nice.
So and Sande now has a story of her own to tell, which is quite fascinating, about the water and everything. She's a seasoned ocean person.
Step into the camera.
You know, I don't do a lot of pre-planning of the work that I do. It's very spontaneous, and I wonder why it's all kind of fluid. But when I look back on my life, when I first was married, my husband and I lived on a sailboat for 6 years, and we cruised up and down the coast, all the Gulf Islands, all the way up to Kitimat. We lived on the boat, worked occasionally. I guess we were sort of hippie boat people. But we also had a grant from the provincial government, from the museum, to document Indian pictographs, which are the paintings on the walls, or the wall. All up and down the coast that had been reported by fishermen and other people, but never photographed or get the latitude, longitude, whatever, so they could send people out from the And so doing that, we also, it's on sandstone, or the paintings are on rock, like granite, but there's always a lot of carvings, which are the pictographs into the sandstone. So I have seen a lot of Tafoni up and down the coast over the years. And so I didn't know the name of it. I just knew it was sandstone erosion. And then I lived on Cortez Island for 10 years and did a lot of beach things. And like I've always been connected to the ocean, very much connected to the ocean, and aware of the erosion if it's a sandstone coastline. And a lot of the Gulf Islands are, like they're going to be eaten away as the high water rises. So it's very vulnerable, even though it looks solid, which is kind of what my boxes are about, because I like to do paintings that are very fluid and out of control, because I personally in my life, I have planned lots of things and thought it would go a certain way, and it didn't do that at all, you know, like, for whatever reason. And I kind of embrace the chaos of the fluid work, and then I try to not really fix it, but make something of it after it's all done its thing, and the mediums had more control than me. And I do that starting points with a lot of my paintings are like that, and then I'll go in and add details or adjust them a little bit. And the boxes are done on paper, various kinds of paper, Yupo and watercolor paper, same idea, totally fluid, and I don't go in and really draw on them or paint on them again. What I do is juxtapose them with a geometric shape, like a box. So this out of control thing is in a box, which looks really solid, but you could step on it and crush it, which is kind of tying into the theme of the rock. You think of rock being solid, but it's really not that solid. So it's the whole erosion thing, and the vulnerability of what you see is kind of an illusion. So that's a lot of the basis of why I do the boxes. Fragility. And I was doing a residency on Vancouver Island at McLaughlin Gardens, and I did this big blue painting there because I spent a lot of time looking out at the ocean, the sky and the ocean, and it was very meditative. I was actually photographing my boxes in their gardens, but I did some really big paintings, and I thought, oh, that would look cool, have boxes in front of the sky or the sea and just kind of sit there, and they look like maybe rocks or something kind of solid, but it's not, you know. So I don't know what much more to say. Has anybody got any questions? That's kind of what my art practice is all about. A bit of ambiguity and vulnerability, and I like that being on the edge of kind of chaos and then trying to make it kind of work after.
To me, it sounds like a world view.
Well, you can take it there if you want to.
That's what goes through
But
my
it's
head as I listen to you.
It's kind of like on a personal level too. Like a lot of the time I do art for personal therapy, I think, like letting things be out of control and then problem solve to how to make it look like something that I'm happy with, or details, you know? So it's like a personal thing, but you could take it to the world level too, or erosion, or climate
everything
change.
is an illusion.
Yeah.
I love how you said embrace the chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like in my abstract art, I like to say sort of like let go and let flow.
Mm-hmm.
I really inspired. I really particularly love this piece here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell us a bit more about this one?
Well, I just put some blobs of fluid color on there, and then I sprinkled graphite on it in clumps, and then I had to spray it because once you get it wet, it spreads everywhere, which it did a bit, even when I sprayed it. And then I added more color, and then I drew into it and kind of emphasized some of the marks.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's just gorgeous.
And it's quite subtle. I mean, I usually don't make things that subtle. I usually do bright colors, but I kind of like it too.
When you're working on your boxes, do you have the predetermined size in mind first, or do you paint first?
Sometimes I do it on a big piece of paper, and I'll see a chunk that works here, and so I'll make a box that size. And, you know, or like the big box, if you need a lot of paper, boxes take a lot of paper, you know, like when you actually unfold them, it's amazing. So, you know, I do a lot of them in the winter when I'm kind of like just sitting there waiting for dry or something, I'll fold up a box. It's kind of fun, I like it, I've got lots of them, as you know. You know, and lots of different sizes. And I did do a whole thing at that residency where I photographed them outside. And another reference to the box is consumer society. Like I think we get so many things in boxes, Amazon, blah, blah, blah. And those boxes, you asked me about the size, there's the little cubes I did get a template off the internet, but the big box is bubbly. You know, and they're tea boxes, they're cereal boxes, they're consumer boxes that I use as the template. And when I told one of my friends, she was really upset about that. But I mean, I think it's a part of what I'm doing is consumerism and boxes, which is kind of wrecking the environment, and you know.
Thanks for telling us that.
Tell me about the smile in your lower portion.
The smile. Which painting?
You don't see the smile?
The line?
Yeah. It totally looks like a smile.
Well, you know, it was there, and I thought this is really not a good situation. And I thought, no,
It's not intentional?
nothing is really that intentional. I could have painted over it. I could have painted over, and I really considered thicker paint because that's on raw canvas, and it was fluid, and like the back of that painting is all really like the painting went through. But I thought there's something about the line that's kind
I
of
just find it very interesting.
horizontal,
Yeah.
or like the sea in the sky. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I left
Oh,
it
I
there.
see your face now.
No, I just no face.
Really? I see like eyes and
Stop looking.
Does anyone else see it?
I'm wondering how to find about that.
Oh yeah.
You need to make up a story.
Yeah, I know.
It's looking up at us. Wow.
Anyways, I've actually over the period that I've been a painter, I've made a lot of blue paintings. Blue is a color that I use a lot because of the sea and spending a lot of time outside by water. So, any other questions?
Okay, can I just go back to the photography? I just want to explain something to you guys. One thing I found from going there, having the opportunity to get to go to the main island every 2 months, basically for the last 2 years I've been getting to go, is that the erosion started to really make a big difference. So this particular image of the skull, I noticed it, and then I went back, and believe it or not, oops, sorry. This is the skull right here.
Oh, yes.
Not even a year later.
Yeah.
This here's the skull,
my
and
goodness.
so that is how much it is eroding because of the smashing of the rocks. And the last few years that I've been there, there's been 2 really big king tides. And again, I've learned more about the tides, so I know those are big and dangerous. And so lots of logs, huge logs, like this is a pretty skinny little log compared to some of the logs. So, and this particular piece right here is the same piece here. And when I first started photographing it, it had a very distinct profile. And so I have pictures of a very distinct profile, and there's no longer a profile. And so it is even eroded even more. So these big rocks come in and they just keep smashing it with every tide in and out. And the tide actually, when the tide is really big on a king tide, you don't see that at all. So all of this part is all covered up, like all of this is all covered up on a big tide. So that's what you'll see. So this part here is on, Some days you can walk right across it, some days you can't walk across it.
What would
So-
that be, about 15 feet, 10 feet?
On the average, where the areas that I go is about 4 meters. So the tide will go in and out on an average 4 meters. So when this went up to like 6 meters, it's went up highest. What I've learned is that was the highest it's ever been last year. So the tide is really, really starting to change on it. You
Yeah.
probably see it. The
So
road
what's the date difference between that one
and that one,
and that one?
not even a year. Not even a year, right?
Wow.
When us 4 ladies went, I was like, holy moly, these are rocks. So, that are missing, this is, so there's big differences now. I'm going to have to go through, and like I say, I've been going every 2 months for almost 2 years now. So I actually have a good comparison. So we do have a show in March, and I'll probably make a tile image of some kind that will give us some indication of how it has changed. And definitely the shoreline. In January we have a show coming up at Cityscapes, and it's talking more of the shoreline, and I'll probably show a lot more about the shoreline and the roots and how it's all coming in and the trees that are down and blah blah blah. So the erosion part of this, so besides the cuteness of the textures and the patterns and everything, as you photograph it, you do get hit about the environmental concerns, about the erosion and about everything, and you walk around and you think,
Well, it's so slow, because it's like
such
the
a
slow
beautiful
process, not
place.
as slow as you think, when you
Yes.
say it's happening. But like one day to the next, you don't notice it. It is really happening. And a lot of people's properties on the Gulf Islands, which are beautiful properties, waterfront, are gonna cave into the ocean, eventually.
So it's really, and then when you go to other parts of the world, which I have, where there's erosion too, it really hits home a lot, So it's really beautiful in one sense, and it's really inspiring, and it really has been a creative inspiration for me and for Sande and for us as a group. We've really enjoyed it, and we find that we don't want to stop. We just want to keep going and going and going into it, like the little holes, just keep crawling. But at the same time, it does have the whole environmental concern to it wrapped up. So
I'm just curious, sorry.
Yeah.
You're saying environmental concern. Is this a natural erosion, or is it being impacted in some way by climate change or climate acceleration or something? I'm just curious if this is a natural thing. Is it somehow being affected by
higher water
accelerated-
levels
Yeah.
and stronger storms.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, the stronger storms are really affecting it, the physical abrasion of what's
They're
being
really big
battered.
king tides, higher than they have been.
I was thinking too, the
So-
quality of the seawater in conjunction to pollution.
Yeah, that's what I'm
And things
wondering.
and how those will affect specifically these, because they are so affected and so obvious.
So,
I can't answer that because I'm not a scientist or
next
a
step.
geologist, but definitely even from the research that they do say chemicals have a lot to do with it, but I don't know which chemicals are, and it was something that even though I wrote it down, I went, I don't know if I should put that because I'm not qualified to write that down,
You could
but it
take
was
your-
from the research, and I put the 2 websites where I got it from. So I really don't know about the pollution, except for I can tell you I've seen on the beach near my place, there's big barrels just washed up one day and the next day they're gone, and there's a big log one day and the next day it's gone, and there's a kayak one day and the next day it's gone. So you can imagine what happened because of Hawaii or because of Kamloops. I mean, all these places that are burning, or what's going to happen because of California this week, right? So who knows what's gonna be bashing up against the shores, and that question I don't know. I just know the abrasion of the physical stuff will make a difference.
So it's definitely being accelerated, the erosion is happening.
Probably.
Yeah.
It seems like it. Well, if you've seen difference between 1 year between that skull and like, that seems awfully fast for erosion to be taking place. I don't know, but.
Yeah, you know, and like I say, I'm learning every day and I research it more and find out, but at the same time, I can't go too far down that rabbit hole, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
I have to stay looking at the artistic part of it, because otherwise I'm very prone to going down the rabbit hole. So I have to have that balance between the artistic expression and the inspiration I'm receiving.
You're
from
aware
it.
of that, but you're trying to show that, but
Yeah.
the
Yes.
scientific details, I don't think, there's a whole other aspect of it.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to watch them over the next 10 years or so,
Mm.
you know, the change.
I calculated what I paid for my place and I figure if I get it 5 years of enjoyment, I feel very blessed. I don't know any
Yeah,
We're right on the edge. We're right on
It's
the edge.
eroding.
It's right on the edge and the roots are all showing and I think,
It's
okay,
scary.
if we can have 5 years, then I feel I've,
It's a good investment.
it was a good investment. Anything past 5 is a good investment, and until then we're just gonna enjoy it. So yeah, good questions, but it's finding that balance definitely. And I think doing that canvas, making it really rugged like that, and even just, I need to do some pieces like that to make it really, like there's one piece I did at home where I have like a silk and where I've ripped it almost, you know, to make it like just threads of the water. Yeah. So I'm trying to do both. I'm trying to do it as something pretty that hangs on a wall, and then some parts need to release the other pieces.
Hand it over to the scientists.
That's true. There's lots of people.
You're capturing the beauty, right?
Yeah, I'm capturing elements of art.
I think it's really good to make art too that's got kind of an element beneath the, like you say, the beauty or the enjoyment of making the piece. It's got something that you're thinking about, some bigger issue.
Very
So
evocative.
it's a good driving force.
We have a place on Gabriel Island, and a really big concern for people there are freighters, because there's so many freighters out there that anything that would spill is just catastrophic, as with any of the Gulf Islands.
Right.
And they're big, so you
They're
can imagine
And they
they're
probably dump a
smashing.
lot of stuff in the water.
And we don't know what they're dumping.
Yeah.
And Gabriel Island, I can only speak for that island, but has a whole community that does clean the beaches, that puts a call out and says, there's styrofoam all over the place, and this styrofoam is horrible to sea life and whatever, but to plant life. But so big groups of people go and just clean it, right, constantly. So that's one way of sort of tackling it, but the freighters are a big concern.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And this does affect sea life too, I'm sure. You know, big time.
Can I just tell you? You know how the bay is? They had orcas last week, like a few weeks ago. Like they've never had orcas in the bay, and they just in Victoria this week they had 3 feet from the beach area. The orcas were swimming that close to the people. So that nobody has ever seen orcas in our bay, and they have, because when I was there last couple of weeks ago, we were paddleboarding and we were here to and to the seals. There were seals that close to us. So, yeah. But I think you have to, as an artist, you go out and you have to look for things like in the rocks, the shapes, like the skulls, and just enjoy the abstract of it, and maybe it's not good to go back and re-photograph and look for the change. I don't know.
I think it's important
it's
documentation.
Yeah, it is.
It's kind of a side to what you're doing, but maybe not every, people are not always in that spot at your timing. I think that it's very valuable what you're documenting.
Well, I think that's part of my background too, having always worked in education and wanting to, you know, be part of an educational thing. So that is coming out of it also. So yeah, even the video part. So. Any other comments, questions, answers?
Sandy, that's your piece over here as well?
The pink.
I was wondering about your choice of color. I love it, it's beautiful.
Yeah, there again, like I wasn't planning to make a piece about water or ocean. I just was making a painting, a fluid painting, and then there's all these kind of bubble things, and I chose pink, but I don't know, like pink algae, pink red tide. Seaweed. I don't understand.
There's pink, almost pink burgundy seaweed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, beautiful
So
star
it's a bit of a stretch, maybe, but
It's stunning.
It is, it's beautiful.
It's kind of like expensive.
I feel like the deep crevices, if you looked into a tide pool, you would
Yeah.
see, and maybe the deep crevices, the dark areas there, it's
I had a lot of fun with all the squiggly lines, and I used to do a lot of drawing, so like I often do draw into my paintings and accentuate them with shadows and things.
yeah, levels and depth. Yeah.
A drawing painter.
So where is the exhibition traveling to? Do you have a few places that it's going to go?
Yes.
That part in next year.
March,
March.
April, May.
But, you know, we're learning a lot from this exhibition, so we will be fine-tuning and adding and, you know, whatever, subtracting. And then in 2025, Cityscape on Lonsdale.
Great,
And
wonderful.
is Celeste in the part we went to?
Yes.
We have a dancer,
Well, poet.
poet dancer, who's going to do some,
Yes.
so, yeah, another layer.
That's exciting.
Mm. Wonderful.
So there will be some similar pieces, but there'll also be lots of new work
Well,
too.
the theme will also be on turbulence, so we're going to talk more about, it will be a little bit stronger on turbulence, and then cityscapes is on edges, so it's going to be more about just the meeting of the earth and the water.
Okay.
So we all have a lot of material and a lot of
Excess
inspiration on
material.
these, and inspiration, and so we found like there isn't a space that's big enough for us, so we need to subdivide it. So when you guys come, you won't be bored too. You'll be able to see brand new work.
We can evolve along with you.
Yes.